Last June, our business did a total of $9,000 in revenue. 6 months later, we have $1 million business. In this episode, my partner Tomer and I go through the daily process that we would commit to regardless of what happened.
I made a decision to not trying to focus on creating cash flow. It makes you almost blind to the truth.
The dopamine wasn't the growth. The dopamine was doing the work. And it's not sexy. It's so boring most people would overlook it. This is a process that you can install into any business. And every single time this system is put into place, the business magically grows.
Everyone is looking for AI and automations. Just being very personal with people makes a difference.
I want to unpack that with you.
By chasing fast results, you spend more money. You spend your time chasing the next thing that will get you the faster result. But then I realized that the fastest way to get faster results is to...
We went into a saturated, overcrowded, skeptical market, and we did it the way that everybody says to do it. And we also did it on the side. And then finally, we committed to it, did it in a completely opposite way of what everybody says you should do. And 6 months later, we had $1 million business. So I want to go into exactly how we did it and tell all the nitty-gritty step-by-step of how we got there. And I want to show that this way of doing it, which is provable, can be installed into just about any business, even if the entrepreneur has been beating their head against the wall for a long time, because that's what we were doing. And we just rolled up our sleeves and ran this process. And now we've got $1 million business and we're growing month over month over month, and it's fun again. But before we go into that, tell me how you made your money building businesses the way that everybody else says you should do it until we made a change.
So I built my previous business, which was an agency that helped brands, thinking that all I need to do as the owner and the founder is to hire more people so I can grow faster, so I can do less of the things that I don't want to do, so that I can reach my goals. And it took me a very long time, too long, to realize that it comes at a very high cost. And I'm taking very, very big risks. And these risks might not pay off. And I had the belief that I should invest more of my own money, even though the business was growing, but even though I'm losing money. So I need to hire more people or different people or better people and more expensive things and more automations and more outsourcing, until I realized that there's no end to it. And I'm going to risk years of my life paying off this debt if I'm not making any changes. So one day I decided, it wasn't one day, but one day I realized that I can't do this anymore.
Why did you keep putting money into a business when it wasn't going in the direction that you thought it would?
It was going in the direction that felt like progress. So we had more clients, but more clients required more team members, and more team members required a bigger office. And this is how it snowballed. And then one day you don't have that client, and you don't have the other client, and then COVID hits, and this happened, and now you're left with all this overhead. And it's very, very hard to go back because you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to feel like you're shrinking your own business. So there's a lot of ego in it. And also you see other businesses who are doing the same thing and they're doing fine. They're doing really well.
Or they say they are.
Yes, exactly. That's what I realized years later. But I realized that I need for a change to do things on my own without leaning on team members and advisors and experts and hire them out. So that's where I started this process.
So you did what everybody says you should do. Scale, scale, scale. Outsource everything you can. Focus on only the things that you're good at. Hire out everything else. And there's good advice in there. But the way that it showed up in your business was avoidance. You don't want to fire that person. No one does. You don't want to make that cut. No one does. But you ran a team that had a lot of overhead, and the minute things go down, it unraveled real quick. Is that a fair summary?
A very fair summary.
That's hard. And not a lot of people talk about that unraveling process. Did you try to fix it on the way down?
I did. And I thought that I needed to make the money that I lost in the same way that I lost it.
That rings a bell.
Yes. Yes.
Would you like to tell what that quote came from?
So I was sharing that with you. I think it was last year, exactly, a year ago. And once I shared it, I think you were saying something like, "Oh, sounds like my life story." Like, "Oh, really?" I thought I was the only person on the planet that had this very sad story, and very embarrassing story. And just by you saying this, I was like, "Oh," I felt such relief.
When I told you my story,
Yes.
and I don't remember which story I told you.
About that brand.
Yeah, I mean, I bought, for anyone not named Tomer who's listening or watching here right now, I also bought a business and had a lot of expenses, and it was really hard for a couple of years. I shouldn't have bought that business. I had no business buying that business, but I did. And I made, I made good on my promises, but it cost me millions of dollars. And that was really hard for several years to grind through that, and lost a lot of sleep over that. And I told you that, and you realized, oh, other entrepreneurs go through these challenges.
Yes.
And I think what I told you was that I've realized that you don't need to make the money back in the same way that you lost it. You don't need to fix that problem in order to make your money back. You can do other things and make more money. And that seemed like it was a big shift for you.
Yes, because it felt like I'm doing something wrong by taking money that I earn now to fix problems that my previous business created. And it was more of an emotional hurdle. It was not something that was logical, because money is money, right? I'm making money. I need to pay that money. Mm-hmm. That's it. So I tried to beat that horse of, hey, I need to make money this way. And making money this way also meant keeping the team, hiring people, and that's where I realized that it is okay to stop bleeding with that business so I can focus on making more money and pay off this debt. And that's what happened.
And since you made that decision, there's just been this new re-energized focus that has allowed our partnership to really flourish. And again, we had this little side project that was doing $10,000 a month if we had a good month. And once we flipped into this different mode, now the business is $1 million business, and we're so pumped about it. Meanwhile, you and I haven't paid ourselves nothing, but man, are we having a good time. And now we really believe that this business is a multi-million-dollar business. You threw the number out. I think we could do about 30 million a year. Yeah. Okay, cool. We could. I mean, let's I'm happy with one right now. We'll be at 2 soon. We'll probably end this year at a $2 million run rate. And these types of businesses tend to double for at least the first couple years. All right, and then we can talk about 30. But let's talk about how we got to 1. Because we really stuttered for a long time at $5,000, $10,000, maybe $12,000 a month. and now we got $1 million business. I think it started with that phone call back in June of last year. Would you tell the story from your point of view?
Yes. So I made a decision to not trying to focus on creating cash flow or not dealing with the fact that I have this debt that I have to pay off, because Switch was not making me or us any profit
Right.
that we could take. And I knew that it's not going to be this way for a very long time. So I thought it would be irresponsible to focus on my long-term plans, which is building Switch, when I have this immediate need right now.
I see.
So I gave Switch maybe 5% of my mental bandwidth and my time, because I felt it would, more than that would be irresponsible for myself. And then I made a decision to treat Switch as it was making me money, all that money. Like, I don't need cash flow. I don't need any of that for a while. And let's see what happens. And
Does that mean that energetically that you were almost not showing up to Switch because it wasn't feeding you? And then you just decided, I'm going to pour my own energy into it and pretend like I'm going to get nothing out of it for a while. You punted what you needed to get out of it for a while. Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't planning on getting anything out of it for a while, but I wanted to treat it as my first priority so that it could get me what I want later on. And when I decided I'm going to make this change in my mind for a set period of time, 3 months, 4 months, it would not be irresponsible. It would just be an experiment, and I will get over it if that doesn't work out. So I decided that the first thing they'll do every morning, instead of the last thing, would be to focus on Switch. And this is where, like, so what do I do with all that time? Now I have all that time in my hand. I have all this energy. Where should I spend it on? What should I spend it on? My time and my energy, not money for a change. And this is where we had this conversation and said, Ryan, okay, this is where we're at. Let's map this out. I'm open to do whatever it takes. I want to do it. So let's plan this out. What would it look like over the next 3 months? Not 3 years, just the next 3 months. And we mapped this out, and you gave me a few really good insights that I can summarize as, let's focus on what we already have, not on how we can get more. And what got us to 10K a month, let's see what it was so that we can take it to 100K a month. And this is where I started seeing all of our wins, which is harder than looking at the 90,000 that we were not making.
Yes. I only knew to give you that advice because I have lived my life in that gap. I am here. I want to be here. What do I need to do in order to close that gap? Rather than saying, I'm here. How did I get here? Do more of the best parts of that. Then worry about adding more stuff. Maximize what got you here that is working absurdly well, or the best of that, and then maybe test some other strategies. But what I did for a long time, and what many entrepreneurs do, is you say, that's nice, now I need a new strategy. What got you here won't get you there, so let me completely change the plan. Wherein there's so much more to milk in what got you to 10 grand a month. Now, of course, 10 grand a month isn't where we want to be. That's a very small business. But we started looking at the pieces that were working in there and getting better at those. And I asked you a question on that phone call. I said, would it be progress if we got to $20,000 a month? Yes. Okay, after that, would it be progress if we got to 30 or 40? And we just played that game. Would it be progress if we grew, or is it only progress if we get to $100,000 a month? Because if it's only a win at $100,000 a month, then we're losing the entire way and we need to get a new plan. But if it's winning if we get to 20, then we just need to get better at what we're already doing. And I think that started to flip the conversation in the way that we approach things.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's more fun and exciting to think about the new things, because you have all these opportunities. If you just, Google, how do I make money in e-commerce, or how should I grow my e-commerce business? You would see so many people who say that they've done this and TikTok shop and that.
Then
and
find
all the
this podcast,
Right. Yeah.
this conversation right here.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop right there. So this feels more fun. It's more exciting. And as entrepreneurs, I think we're looking for that novelty and these dopamine hits of starting new things. And it's harder to do the same thing that you've done because you're not getting the results in the pace that you wanted to get them. So you feel like you're not doing something right because you should be here, but you're actually here.
That's exactly right.
So it's wrong. But if you just focus on what got you there and double down on it, then you could get here, and then you could get there, and you could get there.
You can make 5% improvements. 5% improvements feel like nothing when you're not selling much or there's not much growth happening. But give it enough 5% improvements and you double, quadruple, quintuple. I don't know what the upples are after that.
It's like dividend paying stocks.
Yes.
You reinvest the profits. So at first it feels really small and slow, but before you know it, it compounds really quickly. And that was the same thing about those 10K that we were making. Like, we only had 247 followers on Instagram. So why would we bother posting every day? We only
Is that what we really had, or are you making that number up?
No, we had 200 something.
We had 247 followers. Why post to them? Exactly. No one's watching.
We'll post when we get to 2,000. So let's just wait for that to happen.
Wait. Let's not do anything.
We email our list twice a week if only 57 people are opening it.
Right.
We actually had more than that, but it just feels this, and you're like, okay, so how do I get 10,000 people on my email list? How do I get 2,000 followers? When I get there, I'll do those things.
Yeah.
But you get there when you do those things, like even if nobody's watching, listening, or if you only get 1.2 likes per post on average, because this is how you get to 2 likes per post, and then you get 5 more followers, and then you double down on those micro wins, and this is where the compounding really happens. This is where you're getting excited about those small wins, so it gives you even the energy to keep doing that. So before you know it, these wins turn to be really big.
So why don't you share the plan we came up with, and then we'll dive deeper into how that started to move the needle and grow to $1 million business.
So the first question you asked me was, what got us to 10K? And then we broke it down. Or what do we have as a brand? What are the assets that we have? So
what are we working with? What do we got?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had our email list. We had our very small following. We had a few influencer relationships, and we had some social proof.
And it's important when you say influencer relationships, that doesn't necessarily mean people are posting about us. It means we have a relationship. It means we can call them, we can reach out to them. And some of them, had 10,000 followers or so, or they had replied to a message of ours. It doesn't mean that we're best friends. It means that, all right, we have a relationship here. Don't know what to do with them yet, but it's an asset that we have. And these customers, maybe they haven't heard from us in a while, but it's an asset that we have. We started just looking at, what do we got? What do we have to work with? What do we have in the box that we can start to piece together?
Yes. And how can we leverage that to create more of these wins? Not 2x jumps, but how can we get 10% better? How can we keep doing the thing? And that thing was to go really deep and make every interaction meaningful, not looking to create as many interactions as possible. but to make each one of them very, very meaningful. And so you treat your 15 subscribers or 15 customers that you have, as an example, really, really, really well. Like the 5 that bought yesterday, you just go out of your way
Yes.
to thank them.
Yes.
And it's easy when you get 5 sales a day to say, how do I get it to 50? I need to 10x what I'm doing. But this is not the fastest way, actually. It's not even the easiest way. The easier way and the faster way would be, how can I compound the 5 sales and customers that I have and the 2 that said that they had really good experience with my product so that I can get 5 more? And once you start building that system, then it very quickly compounds, because those 5 customers now become, 3 of them become raving fans who tell 2 of their friends. And 1 of them left an Amazon review. And it's easy to say, I only have 13 Amazon reviews. I need 100, but I only got 1 sale a day. So what do I do? But if you take each of those reviews and you post it on Instagram and you send it to your list, and then you get 3 more sales and you follow up with these customers and you get more reviews, before you know it, you're at 100 reviews. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, these 100 reviews really scale up your sales. Mm-hmm. So it's not about counting the money more than it is, how do I count those micro wins? Like, now I got 3 likes on that post. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's DM these people and thank them for liking my post and start a conversation. Not because it's scalable. It's not scalable. But you should do the unscalable things at first so that you can scale faster later.
And it's not scalable to one person, but you can instill a culture of appreciation of your customers and your wins, and actually systemize that for when you bring on somebody who is in charge of customer experience. But at first, you as the founder or the operator have to be appreciating what is there rather than resentful of what is there. You and I both do coaching calls for our clients, and we've both noticed a tendency, and we probably noticed because some of this lives in us too, and we've both dealt with this and have gone in a different direction, hopefully, which is that when someone's not getting the results that they want, they're almost resentful of what is there. Like, what is here? I'm at $10,000 a month and I resent it because I'm not at $100,000 a month. And whether it's energy or woo-woo shit or it's just psychology, you tend not to grow from that place. Whereas when you're appreciative of the customers that got you here, you tend to treat them better, look forward to the next one, and excitedly serve those that come into your fold, which creates a much better experience. And that tends to percolate out to other people. It's like the same way of when I'm enjoying an interview or a video or a piece of content, it tends to perform better than when I am angry and resentful and closed off and I don't want to be doing this, because you treat it with a different level of intent and thoughtfulness. And if they're your customers, you might want to show some appreciation and some thoughtfulness into their experience. So we went all in on that. How do we just create meaningful interactions, appreciate our customers, have really strong intent, and then let's see what happens? And some stuff started to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really like making money, where it's hard to if you're here and you want to make more money, like, okay, what do I need to do to make more money? But you could think about, how do I use the money that I already have to create more money? And this is the same thing. How can I use my very small audience to get more customers, grow my audience? How can I use the 7 influencer relationships the 7 influencers who just said they love my product, so that 2 of them could post to their 7,000 followers, so that 3 of them will follow us, so that we can follow up with them, add them to our list, email that list, get customers, post reviews.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to do, again, when you see your competitors or people you aspire to be that have 50,000 followers, or they're making as much. But the thing is that because none of them are doing those things, then doing those things is what makes you unique and stand out. So in the world, everyone is looking for AI and automations and outsourcing and virtual assistants and all of that, just being very personal with people, not just your customers, makes a difference. People really appreciate it. And when they appreciate it, they can add more value to our business more than we think that they can. Because if you sell your product for $30 and you had 5 sales yesterday, yes, it's $150. But if 2 of these reviews would get you 5 more customers, then what is the value of these 5 customers initially? It's way higher than what you'd think it is. And then when you compound it, it's very easy to see how every sale matters. And before that sale, there is someone who interacted with you. There was a lead. There was a follower. So you can see how every interaction with the follower would lead to 1 customer, and how that 1 customer would lead to 2 more. And that's it.
I remember talking about how we wanted sales to grow, but we can't control that. What we can control is the things that lead up to sales. I think when I taught this for the first time, I said it was like a cake. We can't control how many cakes are produced, but we can control how many ingredients we have. No analogy is perfect, and that's not a very good one. But we started focusing on the ingredients to sales. What do you need in order for sales to grow? Well, you need social proof. You need reviews. You need leads. And what are the precursors to those? Well, those are meaningful interactions. Those are pieces of content. That's outreach. These are things we can control. We can't make the sales numbers go up, but we can control how many pieces of content we make. We can control how many interactions we have with people who are leads or not. We can control how many times we send people to an opt-in page that properly frames them to buy something. These are all things that we can control. And maybe we can't make them go up fast, but we know what to do. So there were a few daily habits that we decided to commit to. Could you share what those were?
Yes. So the first one was interacting with every person who interacts with us or shows a sign of interest, just raising their hands. I followed your account on Instagram and I liked that post, or I watched your story or that video. So the first one was to reach out to these people and thank them for interacting with us and understanding what led them to follow us or interact with us or like our posts. Same thing with people who joined our list. Second thing is reaching out to influencers who our ideal customers trust or that are looking for new solutions. For us, it was a sleep supplement for their audience. And just as you said, we can't control what they would do with it. We can't control if they would like the product or not, but we can put our product out there and we can reach out to them and have conversations. And this is why we call it planting seeds, because we just plant the seed. We don't know what will happen with it, but we know that if we keep doing this for a while, then something will happen. Mm-hmm. And we know that things happen. And the same things with that follower that you reach out to, because you don't know what would happen with that message that you'll send. The worst case is that nothing will happen. The best case is that that person would introduce you to someone, or they refer 5 of their friends and they turn into your best testimonial ever. That will allow you to create more sales and attract more customers. But it's very hard to see that when you're not getting that result.
Yes.
So I remember something that you said on that call or in one of our texts later, like the work right now is just doing the work. Just give yourself space to do those things. One of them, again, was reaching out to people, focusing on what led us to 10K, and just do that for 60 days and see what happens. And this is where I allowed myself not to get the results that I thought I should get, and just doing the thing. And worst case, I'll be okay, cool. It did not work. But let's see what happens.
Let me do a 60-day experiment where I just focus on doing the work, not worry about the results at all.
The result is me completing my checklist.
Yes.
I created this checklist for myself. That was the first thing that I've done every morning. And for me, that was the win, because I knew that if I can get over it myself personally, then I'll be able to keep doing that.
Yes.
So I just needed to get over the need to see the immediate feedback. And it's very, very hard. This is why people turn to these, I would call it fast, like how can you grow as fast as possible? And it makes you almost blind to the truth. Like you hear about this opportunity, TikTok shop, crypto, whatever it is. And by chasing fast results, and I've been there for a very long time, you spend more money, you spend your time chasing the next thing that will get you the faster result. But then I realized that the fastest way to get faster results is to stop chasing new things that could get you faster results. Because again, it's just fun, it's exciting, but it's not going to get you there. So it's very hard for an entrepreneur to stop chasing new things and to start just doing boring stuff that at first they feel exciting. But if anyone who's watching this or listening to this podcast, it will be boring at some point, especially when you're not going to see the results that you thought you should get. But this is exactly where you need to keep going. And what was really helpful for me was to time limit it. Like I only gonna do this for 90 days, and I'm gonna count the wins that I've had, and I knew that I'm going to create process. Either way, I'll have 100 more email subscribers. I'll have 50 more sales, or at the very least, I created whatever amount of content or reached out to that amount of influencers, and I know what not to do. I can't lose.
There will be a net benefit no matter what if I just sit down and do the work. And you changed your source of dopamine by doing that. The dopamine wasn't the growth. The dopamine was doing the work. If I get all of these things done, I have accomplished what is required. And then, I love how you said, it makes you blind to the truth when you're pursuing these fast wins. Because what we started to see when we just focused on the work was we started to see the truth. We started to see the wins that were already there and the wins that we could cultivate. And this is where I say we flipped dopamine to our advantage, because now we started chasing the real wins. We started chasing reviews. We started chasing leads. We started chasing relationships, meaningful interactions. And when we're texting about it, we're celebrating those like we just had our first $100,000 month. Look at this review we got. Look at this comment we got. And now it gets real fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. It is really fun. And it started being fun when we, as you said, we change our source of dopamine, because dopamine is fun.
Yeah.
So when you just shift your perspective to what fun is, you start seeing that there's a lot of fun in what you're already doing. Because, you know, we get these amazing testimonials from people who, you know, a few days ago, someone said, you literally saved my life. And it's very easy to miss those things because you don't see, okay, but why aren't you paying me $1 million if I saved your life? But if you appreciate that and you don't just pass by that and you use that to your advantage as how can I communicate that to other people, even if there's only 5 people who's going to listen to this or read this testimonial. But maybe it would change something for that one person who follows us for a year, and maybe they will buy the product and become the next customer who create this review. So the dopamine comes from these wins that are not even monetary. But we know that, or at least at first you have to believe that they will lead to more money, growth, sales, etc. But at first you don't see that.
I like the phrase that what you appreciate appreciates. Whatever you give your attention to and you appreciate, you tend to get more of. And we started appreciating the positive feedback that we were getting. And as a result, we started getting more positive feedback. That's not necessarily a woo-woo energetic thing. There was a practical application to that. When someone gave us a positive piece of feedback, we started sharing it. We started emailing it, saving it, using it again later, finding different ways to showcase it in our content. And as we celebrated and appreciated that positive momentum, we started getting other positive pieces of feedback. And we enjoyed it so much, we started soliciting positive feedback in a cool, ethical way. When we have a meaningful interaction, we ask for the feedback. And when it's positive, we celebrate it and we appreciate it. And all of a sudden, we're rewiring ourselves to drive the things that we're appreciating and that we are giving attention to, which happen to be all these precursors of sales. And now we've got all these ingredients for the cake that we can make that turns into more sales. The byproduct ended up being that we started seeing month-over-month growth. I don't remember the numbers offhand, but they were small at first and then they started to jump. Do you remember what the growth looked like for the first few months when we started doing this process?
Roughly. I remember that in June, we sold around 9K. By September, it was 33. And I can touch that on how that happened. I think July and August were around 17K-ish. So we almost doubled month over month.
Yeah.
Or once every 2 months. And that big jump in September, we had a few influencers who posted about us, for example, but they were the result of us posting more social proof.
Yes.
And when we reached out to them, they saw the social proof that we posted because they followed us and they wanted to try the product even more now that they've seen all these social proof. So this is how things compound on top of one another. So it's easy to say, oh, I'm reaching out to these people, or I'm DMing my followers and nobody's responding. Right, because they don't know why they should respond over to you because they don't know anything about your brand. But if they would see 3 people who said that they love your product, then maybe that influencer will respond back, and maybe that customer will decide to buy, and they will become your raving fan, and this is how you spin that flywheel. So 17K, 33K, September, January, we're over 60. And we have many, many, many days, most days, that we hit a 3K a day or 100K a month-ish. And it snowballed way faster than I planned, which is exactly the opposite of what happened before. I did not expect us to be here. If you were to ask me 6 months ago, I'd be very happy for 30K by now, but it happened in 3 months.
And because things grew faster than expected, we actually had inventory issues multiple times in those 6 months. So even though we had this great compounding growth, it was slowed by the fact that we had multiple weeks where we had nothing to sell.
Because the growth was faster than what we were able to produce.
Yes. And I think it's important for us to mention that during those times, we said, okay, how do we maximize this time? Not how, can't do anything. All right, this is our time to gather feedback. We even said, okay, how do we prepare for when we're back in stock? So let's continue posting every day. Let's continue having the conversations with people, knowing that we can't sell anything for weeks. And so we built a relaunch list. We just said, let's keep doing the work. Don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to plan like we're going to have a big restock. And we did. And we just kept building the habit. And then I think maybe 4 months in, we started to get reorders and many more subscribers. And then it was like, okay, we have something here. This is really starting to move. And it felt really edifying for me to know that it didn't come from one influencer, although we did have some spikes when influencers talked about us. It didn't come from a review getting hack. It didn't come from one piece of content going viral. It didn't come from one email campaign really hitting. It came from all of them incrementally improving week over week and month over month, and patiently waiting for the compounding results to happen. That felt sustainable. That all of a sudden felt scalable. And it proved to me that the one-to-one prioritization of people is the way to build a multi-million-dollar business. And that is what I want to instill culturally into every brand I'm a part of, every brand I invest in, every project that I'm a part of, because that's the soul of the business. And then all of the other stuff like the Amazon ad and the virality and the influence, it becomes the thing that makes that move faster rather than being dependent on those things in order for the business to grow.
Yes, this is the foundation. And it's not because it's cute. Oh, let's appreciate those people because they paid us money or they liked our post or that they said that they love our product. It's practically how can we use that to leverage and to create more wins like that. So it's very easy to think, oh, it's woo or it's gratitude or any of that, but it's not. It's how can we spot that momentum? It's very, very, very tiny momentum and double down on it. And it could be one-on-one interactions. It could be one piece of feedback. It could be one ad that worked really well. It could be one type of content that works really well. So you double down on it instead of thinking, what else should I do? What other content should I do? What other channels do I need to open? There's time for that. But if you're not in $1 million yet, you probably just need to do one thing, one main thing. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be you're running ads or you're creating content or you work with influencers or whatever it is. But then there is some result to all of that. It could be people liking your stuff. It could be people commenting. It could be people joining your list. Double down on it before you move to the next thing. And do that for 90 days at least before you say this is not going in the right direction.
What I would like to do is share the checklist that we created, what the plan looked like. And it's not sexy. It's so boring, most people would overlook it. But we have tested this with, I don't know how many brands because I teach it at capitalism.com inside of the 1%. And every day people are posting saying, my business is growing. And I'm thinking about one of our clients, Tanisha, who just made this big relationship with someone who could completely change her business. And it came on the back of several weeks of doing the work. And it wasn't sexy. It didn't math out, but she kept doing it. And now she's got these, first of all, her sales are growing for the first time in forever. And now she's making relationships with people that completely change her business. So this daily checklist is changing businesses, including ours. So would you share the checklist of what you showed up and did every day?
So the first thing, again, was to interact with every person who showed some interest. It could be they bought our product. It could be that they emailed us with their problem with their order. It could be that they liked our posts or they follow us. So it was the new interactions, but also all of the older interactions that we had, all the followers that have been following us for a year, or all the email leads that we had. So reaching out to them and, again, first thanking them and starting conversations and trying to move them up in the funnel as from becoming a follower to becoming a lead, to becoming a customer, posting, collecting reviews, etc. Next thing was to collect proof. So how can we every day, how can we collect and collect proof that our product works, that people love our product? And sometimes it's a DM that I received from a customer or an influencer that never posted about us, so it was a loss, but I have this DM from them and I can post this DM so I can get 2 more leads so that I can reach out to those leads. So, side note, it's very easy to focus on the bells and whistles of, I need automations and welcome flows and ManyChat and all of that when you have 200 followers or when you have 100 leads. But because everyone is doing that, then doing the checklist of I'm reaching out one by one to my leads works better and creates better results.
Yes.
So there is time for automations and flows and all of that. But again, first thing, reaching out to and creating interactions, collecting proof, and posting proof. Like every day, just find more proof. And if I don't have it, then I either go out to other people and ask for them to share their feedback, or I can take the same thing that I already posted and just post it in a different way, as long as I do it every day. And again, at first we got 40 people who watch our stories.
We had 247 followers. Who's going to see it?
Exactly. And
What's the point?
And we got 0 likes or 1 like per post, which was exciting. So why should we bother posting? But the more we posted, the more followers we got, and the more our followers even responded to our messages. And the next piece was reaching out to our existing influencers and more influencers so that we can show what we have to more people. And we had no intention of what would happen with those relationships, but we knew that we have a product that works, that people need. So let's just get the right people to try our product, because we knew that when people try it, many of them really like it. So what would be the biggest growth driver for us is get more people to try our product, tell us, and tell their friends. So it could be customers, it could be influencers, it could be friends, but as long as we keep collecting proof and sharing that proof. Trying to think if there was any other thing.
There was one more thing we focused on, which was that every time we posted a piece of content, the call to action would be to a coupon for a first-time customer. And that was important because it aligned all of our content behind one central place where we could gather leads. And anyone who opts in for a coupon for a product is a likely buyer. They have buyer intent. So that allowed us to focus on giving ourselves permission to reach out to those leads. And it's hard to justify, I'm going to reach out to somebody who opted in for something. But if there's genuine intent there, on both sides, that's a likely customer. And as you start to nurture that list, they open more emails and they follow more content. And that helped kickstart the deeper part of the funnel. So that was the thing that kind of tied all of these pieces together. And the process was basically a 2-hour time block. You interact with customers for 30 minutes. You gather proof for 30 minutes. You post that proof for 30 minutes. And then you email the list or do some sort of outreach for 30 minutes. And after 90 days, the business had like quadrupled. The other thing that happened for us was I feel like we got our confidence back in this brand. And it didn't happen once we hit the $1 million run rate. It happened as soon as we started to see the momentum that was coming from the process. And all of a sudden, there was not only belief, but conviction and certainty that if we continued going in this direction, there would be growth and this would become a 7-figure company. It didn't matter that we had spun our wheels for 18 months or 2 years. It didn't matter that that project over here didn't work or that this campaign didn't work. As soon as we had conviction in our plan and we proved to ourselves that we would stick with it, there was certainty that we were going to get there. Absolute certainty. And then we continue to show up and do the work and get better at it over and over and over. Amen.
That's right. And at first, before you believe or before you have that proof that the plan works, the hard part is not following the plan, because what we just shared is not hard.
Yeah.
Right? 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. It's to resist the temptation to deviate from the plan, because it's very easy to say, oh, this is not going the right direction. Now let's try something else for a week and see what happens.
Yeah.
Once you go past that stage, that you've done it for 90 days, and then you look back and you see the progress that you've made, now, again, you get all this energy to do it all over again and to find the ways to optimize your work and automate and find processes and maybe hire people, whatever it is. But now you have something. So, and I think this is the hardest part for entrepreneurs to see, that they have something, because at first you feel like you don't. You just feel like you're doing things and you watch YouTube videos and you read about all these people and you're actually busy, but nothing is happening.
I want to share one more part to the story just to document where we are. And that is that about 3 months ago, I proposed to you that we bring Switch into a bigger portfolio of brands. And what my thought process has been is that I have a portfolio of a few different brands that are related but not competitive to one another. And I wanted to centralize my team. I have conversations with you that are independent of my conversations with this team member over here, but it would really benefit everyone if we were all on the same team heading in one direction. So I proposed to you that we bring Switch into this portfolio to centralize the team, and I could get my team involved, because now this brand is growing. It's not a pet project anymore. It's $1 million business, and we need reinforcements. And I have talented people over here that want to be involved and could provide a lot of value. And also, if it's under one portfolio, it dramatically increases the enterprise value once we go to sell the entire portfolio. So if a brand is doing $1 million in EBITDA, it might sell for $4 million to a buyer. But if it's part of a portfolio that does $10 million in EBITDA, that entire portfolio will sell for $100 million. So the multiple goes way up. And what we are navigating right now, and there's positives and challenges to this, is now we're integrating team members who have different expectations and different culture, and different level of communication is required. And we're centralizing bookkeeping, and we have certain processes that don't gel with how we've done things up until this point. But what you have done has been relentlessly protective of the process that we are following, even if the structure of the business is changing. I also just want to, so just to document the journey, that's where we're at right now, is we are now building a holding company, a portfolio, and Switch has become a part of this portfolio. I also just want to publicly edify your own personal growth. You are dramatically different than you were a year ago. And the fact that you just show up and do the work, and that you're appreciative of everything, and that you are conscientious with customers, and you are thoughtful about the product line and the quality of everything that we do, and consistent in your efforts, has inspired me to be better, inspired me to teach people in a more convicted way. And it has been very edifying to watch how much you've grown in the last year. So I am thankful to be your partner.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you. It's been quite a journey, and we're just getting started. And yeah, it feels like a self-growth challenge in the best way possible. And I'm really appreciative of that. So even if nothing happens from the business, that was worth the entire thing, because I know that I can do it all over again.
That's right.
And it's not because of the skills that I've gathered, but it's because who I've become that enabled me to get to that point. So thank you.
Well, 1 million down. Let's do another one. We're at 2.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, my man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Thank you for having me. All right, it was fun.
If you'll take 2 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the channel, it will help us find the most helpful entrepreneurs, capitalists, and investors to bring onto the show to guide you on your journey. When I started my entrepreneurial career, there were no podcasts. There were no decamillionaires or centimillionaires or billionaires sharing what they've learned along the way. And now I consider it my job and my responsibility to bring those voices to those of us who are born to be entrepreneurs. There's a lot of people who talk about success, who talk about mindset, who have big YouTube followings, but I want to bring you the best entrepreneurial thought leaders and the greatest mentors that you could never afford, that you could never get in front of, that can help you on your journey. And the way that you can help make that possible is by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. In case we've never met before, thank you for being here. My name is Ryan Daniel Moran, and I run capitalism.com. We help entrepreneurs build 7-figure businesses, have multi-million-dollar exits, and I hope you got a ton of value out of today's episode. If you stick around, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.